Greetings, everyone. This is I'm Right.
I'm right.
I'm Jill Cox Cordova.
I'm Anthony Cordova.
And guess what?
What?
This is Season 2, Episode 52.
52. Season 2, Episode 50. Who knew?
2 years.
Who
104 episodes.
Who knew we would last this long? Who knew? Who knew?
I knew.
No,
Because you know why?
Why?
Because we determine whether we're going to keep going or not, but neither one of us is a quitter.
Yeah, but it's been a very rough year for us to keep this going.
Yeah.
So, as you say, I'm proud of us for getting through this year with our podcast and not missing one episode.
Yes, because there were times that it would have been easier to just not do it.
Just not do it, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
So we made it. Thanks to you listeners. You kept us going.
Yes, because if we didn't think anyone was listening, we just might as well stop.
That's right. That's right. This is how we talk anyway to each other.
Yes, and thanks you to all of our special listeners that we hear from all the time. We really appreciate it. We love.
They've been there from the very beginning.
We love
like
hearing
they heard
from,
it before anybody.
Yeah, that is true.
Yes.
That is true. I forgot about that.
Yep. Yes.
Huh.
So they've been there with us through it all.
Excellent.
104 episodes later.
Wow. That's amazing to me.
Yes.
Amazing.
So let's get to what our topic is this episode. We are talking about lessons of 2020. What did you learn this crazy year? It's part of a segment. Yeah, that's it.
Part of a segment.
That we
in
call
2020, Jill learned that we have segments.
That is not true. I created the segments. It's part of a segment that we call Stand by Your Stance. What did you learn?
Nothing.
Yes, you did.
I didn't learn a doggone thing all year. I probably lost knowledge.
That is not true.
I didn't. Excuse me. I didn't learn a thing all year.
Can I tell you what I think you've learned?
What do you think I've learned?
You have learned that the more you write and practice your poems, the better your memory gets.
The more I read and write and practice my poem. You said the more I do my poems.
That is not what I said.
Yes, you did. Yes,
you didn't learn to listen.
I didn't learn a thing. See, I did not learn to listen. Didn't learn a thing. No, I've read more this year than I have in previous years, which is good. And
you know about books?
Yes. Yes.
Do you still say? Have you learned that you're not an avid reader yet?
I'm not quite an avid reader, but I think it's because of the lack of time that I have.
Yes.
So when my working condition changes, I will begin to read a lot more. However, in the last couple of months, I have managed to squeeze in quite a bit of writing. It was difficult, very difficult, but I got a lot done with the small amount of time that I had.
Good.
So that's good. So what I've learned this year, we're talking about what we've learned. I don't know if I can just say it was this year, but I've learned to persevere. You need to continue pushing forward no matter what conditions you're under.
Yes.
So continue no matter how hard your life is or what you're going through. You need to keep pushing forward. But I've always believed that. But this year, 2020, was evidence of me actually doing that. Keep pushing forward.
Yes. Yes. I have learned to be content with the present. I've always been future focused. And
That
I still
you
have
still,
goals.
yes, you still are. You still have goals.
I still
Yes,
have goals, but I've learned to be content with the now and stay in the moment.
that is
I've learned
very
how to stay in the moment.
that is very good.
That was a big, 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 big lesson for me.
So
It came
you
out
say
of
it's
learning how to meditate.
oh. So are you saying that in general, in the past, you focused more on what you were going to do in the future or what you wanted to happen in the future than
Yes.
what you were doing at the time?
Yes.
Ah.
Yes. And I still see end goals. I can still picture them and I have goals. But, just as meditation teaches you to stay in the moment, right? It teaches you to focus on your breath right then and there,
Mm-hmm.
right? And, try to focus your mind on what's happening at that moment. What sounds do you hear around you
Yeah.
at the time? So with that came gratitude of, I might hear, I have a tabletop fountain,
Mm-hmm.
and the only sound I might hear while I'm meditating is the sound of that running water, the fountain. And I just feel so grateful to have, the beauty of water. And, I'm very much a water creature,
Mm-hmm.
and that relaxes me. So then I become thankful that I'm relaxed at the moment. So I've learned to be much more content and grateful for what I have now. Whereas before I was more of a person of, if I have this, if I do that, then this will happen and that will happen and then I'll be happy.
Ah.
Whereas now I'm just grateful for the life I have.
Very good. Very,
Thanks.
very good, Jill.
Thanks.
I'm really happy and proud of you that you've gotten to that point.
Yes.
I
It's a long way coming.
I guess in the beginning it was a little hard for me to understand what you were saying because I've always been that in the moment person.
Right.
Not that I didn't look towards the future, not that
Yes,
I didn't have, but I was always in
because you
the
would say
moment.
something, I would say something, and you're like, "But Jill, I'm looking at what we have right now," and I was like, "Oh, why? Because in the future we're gonna have da 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 da,"
Yeah.
and then you would call me a dreamer and all that, and
You are a
I still
dreamer.
have dreams. Don't get me wrong, but I have definitely learned to really look at the now.
Yeah, and about your dreaming, you always think I'm saying it as it's a negative thing
To a lot of people, that is.
that you're such a
To a
that
lot
you're
of
such a
people, if you're
dreamer.
called a dreamer, they're not. It's kind of like bless her heart. They're not saying something nice.
So I've always said you're a much bigger dreamer than I. However, since we have been together, I have become more of a dreamer than I used to be. I'm one of those people who would say, I'm a realist. I'm a realist. I'm
You
a
still
realist.
are.
Yes, I still am, but I'm also a little more of a dreamer than I was before I met you. So that is it's something
It's at
positive that I
oh,
learned
okay.
from
So
you.
that's a good
Yes.
thing.
It's a good thing that I am a little more of a dreamer. I can actually uh, see myself beyond what my life is today. Um, you know what I mean? And
Yes.
that's the dreamer portion of me.
Well, I think what's different about us, though, on my vision board, I have a quote on it that I cut out from a magazine that says, "Dreams don't work unless you do." So I think the reason dreamers get a bad rep is because a lot of times people just talk about what they're going to do and they never do anything to achieve it. Whereas do believe that you and I are doers. So when we imagine it,
Mm-hmm.
then we will, because you used to say, well, what are you going to do about it?
I still say that. I say
Well,
it all the
you don't
time.
say it that much to me anymore because I'm actually doing
You're doing
something
something
about
about it.
it.
Yeah. So do
So
something.
dreams can come true if you work to make it so. The
Yes.
things you can control, anyway.
Yes. And I'm glad you touched on that. I say that often
You do.
when someone, especially when someone is complaining. That's when I really get like, okay, so what are you going to do about it? If they're unhappy with the way something's going on in politics, I will say, okay, that's how you feel. What are you going to do about it?
Right.
And it
Because we
doesn't
can
mean they
all
have to
contribute
go. That's
something.
right. It doesn't mean they have to go into politics. It doesn't mean, but it means is you can do a little something instead of just standing on the sidelines.
Yes.
So if someone says to me, oh yeah, I plan to write, plan to
Yes.
write. And I'll say, okay, of course, what are you going to do about it? That's the first thing.
Right.
And then he's, oh, when I get some time, I'll write. And then my other thing that I say all the time is just start. Just start. Just write something down on the paper. Just start.
Right.
And that'll get you going in the right directions, because if you don't start at all, you get nowhere.
Right. There's nothing
So,
on the page. No one will ever read it because there's nothing
correct.
to read.
And that goes in for anything. That goes for anything. If you want to start a business, start. Just start.
Right.
Don't give a million reasons why you can't do it.
Right. Because then you're right about that also. If you say you can't do something, you're right. If you say you can do something, you're right.
That is correct. A defeatist mindset. I'm not very good with that, and I'm not very good around people that have that type of mindset. Because I'm a really positive person, and I really believe that we should make the best of what we have.
Yes.
I mean, and a good example is our podcast and our little segments. So what do you think? What do you think? Stand by your stance. When we were putting this podcast together in the very beginning stages, Jill and I were talking about, well, we need to get somebody to write a jingle. We need to, we all these different things. We need to get somebody to put one together for us and all of this. And then I would say, Jill, we need to work with what we have. We don't need to think about the stuff we don't have and that we have to get. What do we have? Well, we have our voices. Okay.
Voices.
So let's do our own little thing. And it turned out that the listeners really like our little segments, our little intros for our segments. So it works. It works. And we don't have to change it.
Yes.
So work with what you have.
That is true.
So, yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. I was thinking about people who, when you say just start, and, we were talking about, I can't. When, I started taking piano lessons when I was 5, and my piano teacher, would tell me to do something like, I can't. He's like, nope, you are not allowed to use that word. So I learned at a very early age, that if I say I can't, then I can't, so I learned that from her. However, as an adult, you get in the workplace, and I'm always full of ideas, because I like in a workplace, I like to work efficiently. And if I see something that's taking far more time than it should, I'm often the person that tries to think of how to do it just as well, but simpler and more efficiently.
Right.
So I would say, well, I'm going to do this. And someone would tell me, you can't do that. You can't do that.
I love it when people say that.
I know.
To me.
I know, because
to me, I can't. Okay.
Okay.
Let's see.
So I find a way to, still achieve what the company needs, what the outcome should be at the standard that it should be.
Mm-hmm.
But I did it my way.
I did it my way.
And then they were like, "Oh, see, Jill, you did it.
Whether I'm wrong.
You did what we told you to do." And I'm like,
Yes.
"Well, as a matter of fact, I did it this way."
Uh-huh.
So they didn't even know.
Right.
Right? So I do think that even when you're told, because there are many people out there, I learned from my students that they've been told before they get in my class, you can't write.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore they think they can't, nor do they want to.
Correct.
So all anyone needs is encouragement and another way to do it.
Uh-huh.
Another way.
Another way.
So if someone tells you, I'm saying this to listeners, if someone tells you you can't do something, figure out how you can still give them what they need, but something that works for you too.
Right. And in some cases, you might find out, oh, I can't do that.
Exactly.
But when those times happen,
those are lessons too.
Those are also lessons. So maybe you can't do that. But then what you really need to look at, even in those cases, so again, what do you have?
Yes.
And trying to do that, what do you have? What did you gain? What knowledge did you gain while trying to do that thing that you were not able to do or you did not succeed at?
Right.
And look at all of that and figure out what's the next step.
Well, another thing that I learned about myself this year is that just because I can do something
doesn't mean I should.
Doesn't mean I should.
Yeah, I learned that lesson a long time ago.
I really learned it this year. I truly did. And I will never make that mistake again.
Very good.
I make different mistakes. But, to me, you have truly learned a lesson when you don't repeat a mistake.
Exactly.
So when you make a new mistake, that's a new lesson.
Correct. Very correct.
And I've also learned not to fear failure.
That was a hard one for you, Jill.
It's like when you and my mother are like, you need to learn how to fail. Like, what? Why would either of you tell me to do that? What is wrong with you all? What?
Well,
I get it.
Many of our listeners, and this phrase I'm going to use, I hate this. You know which phrase I'm going to use.
Yes, I do.
But people that are deemed by other people to be overachievers, I don't like that word.
You're just an achiever.
Yes, that's what. A person that achieves. I don't think anyone's an overachiever. You could never achieve too much in your life.
Right.
Keep achieving.
Right.
But a lot of people that are seen as overachievers is because they never failed at anything. So I found that people that never failed at anything in their life, when one day they do,
it's devastating.
It's devastating. Absolutely devastating.
It's devastating.
And it can really, it really messes them up.
It messed me up for a while.
Send a person into depression.
Yes.
And their life could actually just go spiraling downward because
it messed me up.
They didn't succeed at something that they attempted. So that's why people do need to learn how to fail, and they need to learn how to get up again and continue.
Yes.
Otherwise, life can be very difficult.
Yes.
Very difficult.
Very difficult. I've always thought I was a compassionate person and I have empathy for others, but I've really learned to take a step back when someone is rude to you. And I'm not talking about racist. I'm just talking about they're just mean, is to take a step back and wonder, where's this coming from? Because most of the time it's not at you. It's not you. It's something that's going on with their day, so I've learned to empathize, because many of the things that they may have gone through that day, that year, that month, that decade has really made them an angry, mean person.
Have you ever called someone out on it. Like they're just being really rude and mean and just call them out on it and say,
Well,
hey,
my first
you
instinct
are
is,
being really rude and mean and
well, that's what made me learn the lesson. My first instinct was always to just walk away. Like,
mm-hmm.
Like I don't, as we all know, I don't tolerate people when they yell at me.
Right.
I'm very intolerant of that behavior. However, one day I was like, what is wrong with you? Why are you acting this way? And they told me.
Oh.
And they were really going through a lot.
Stuff. Right.
So it was good for them and for me because I learned to take a step back and, especially if it's someone you actually know.
Yeah.
And they're really acting out of character.
Yeah. I always try to be a kind person.
You do.
I'm not always successful.
Nope.
But
you're more successful than me, though.
I really
try. If I don't like a person,
but there was this one particular day many, many years ago before I met you, Jill, many years ago. And I was having a really awful, awful, awful day. I'm not even going to go into what was happening that day, but it was awful. And I went into a store to purchase something, and I get up to the counter, and it's time to pay, and I just throw my credit card towards the person.
Oh.
I didn't even realize
that's
I did
out of
it.
Character.
Yes, I didn't even realize I did it, right?
Right.
And they said to me, you don't have to be so rude. And it like snapped me back, back to the person I'm really supposed to be.
Right.
And I said, oh, you're right. I really apologize. That was wrong of me. I'm so sorry. And I picked the card back up and handed it to them instead and apologized again. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to do that. So, and I thanked her for bringing it to my attention.
Right.
But that's the kind of person I am. If you point out something that I am doing that is wrong, I'm putting somebody down or I'm doing something, everybody has bad days. I would prefer somebody bring it to my attention. So it helps me become a better person.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's move to our second segment that we call
Give it a rest and a resolution.
So, what's your conclusion resolution?
That was really quick to the second segment. I thought we were only talking for like 2 minutes.
Had a lot to say.
Oh, I don't know. Go first.
Good thing I'm watching time.
Yes, go first. Go first, please.
Well, my conclusion resolution is that the whole premise of this episode is that you should have learned something this year. So hopefully you learned something about yourself. And hopefully you learned something about yourself, you looked at yourself, and hopefully you opened your eyes to others as well. But you should have learned something.
Something.
This year.
Well, I agree with you on that. I'm going to go a little bit further, though. So I do agree. You should have learned something, especially this year, about yourself. And if you believe you didn't learn anything about yourself, maybe you need to slow down and take a closer look. Because if you really didn't learn something about yourself, particularly this year, that's a problem. That's a problem.
It is.
It means you might really be self-centered and insensitive and not have any compassion or empathy for anyone. So I'm sure none of our listeners are like that. But our listeners might know someone that's like that, because I'm sure none of our listeners are like that.
That's right.
They they know, they learn stuff, because we probably have the most intelligent listeners anywhere.
I believe that too. And I also believe that if you have years without learning anything, then I guess you're dead. That would be dead to me.
What type of learning are we talking about? Are we talking about spiritual learning? Are we talking about learning in the classroom?
But I definitely think it's reflective learning.
Reflective learning. Okay.
Yes. Every year, I think you should reflect.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Some people do it more often than yearly, but yes.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Time for our
third segment.
There you go.
It's a segment that we call
I'm trying to help you.
I do have something for this one.
Okay.
Because we were talking about it a few days ago. My tip is, for this year and everything that's gone past, take some time to be alone, and find a mirror, stand in front of it, or sit in front of it, and look at yourself and reflect about what you've been through this year. And that's it.
Yes.
That's it. That's it. Just do that and see what happens.
Yes. And my advice to piggyback off of that would be to be honest with yourself too. A lot of times when people reflect on themselves, they're not even honest with themselves, and you need to be. But I have a tool or a recommendation that can help people do that. It's actually a journal called "What's Your Story?" A journal for everyday evolution. Again, the title is "What's Your Story? A Journal for Everyday Evolution," and it's by Rebecca Walker. Yes, that Rebecca Walker and Lily Diamond. It's a journal that you can do as many pages as you want, but it has many prompts that has you to look at yourself and what you know about yourself, and it's all to be a better person.
Cool. Because we all would like to be better people than what we are right now.
Yes. The best versions of ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent.
So let's get to our last segment that we call.
So, what do you think? What do you think?
Because I'm right.
Because I'm right.
So we want to hear from you, listeners.
We do.
What have you learned in 2020? Have you just learned that Tony and I are crazy when we talk?
No one thinks you're crazy. They might think I'm crazy
too. Some people think I'm out there. Or what I've heard is that some people don't think I'm being authentic, that this is the authentic Jill. But it really is. This is really how I am all the time with you.
Yeah. So we would like to know, what do you think? So what do you think? Yeah. And the number is 404-594-2247. Or, you can email us, or
it's not an email. It's a comment on the blog.
You can comment on the blog. Any way you want to communicate with us.
Yes.
Just don't knock on our door. Unless you were invited. After COVID.
Says the person who tells everybody he crashes things. Like,
I crash. Yeah.
So don't do as you do. Do as you say. Is that what you're trying to say?
I wouldn't go to somebody's door and just knock on their door when nothing's going on. There's got to be a party or something.
Okay.
Really?
They might think we're having a party, though.
No, they don't. If they don't see any cars, they don't see anything else. The house is dark. We gotta wrap
this up.
Gotta wrap this up, Jill.
You've been listening to I'm Right.
I'm Right.
I'm Jill Cox Cordova.
I'm Anthony Cordova.
Shout out to Gifford Ivan Cordova III for the music, Nick Zinke for the art, and to you too, listeners. Happy New Year.
New Year.
It's almost.
New Year.
It will be.
Woohoo!
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.